The last three ships of the Kelleran defense fleet hung in space like broken toys. Their crystal hulls, once shining bright blue in the light of their sun, now flickered with dying energy. Cracks ran across their surfaces like spider webs. The beautiful ships that had protected the Kelleran homeworld for 1,000 years were falling apart. Admiral Zexai pressed his six-fingered hand against the warm crystal wall of his command ship. He could feel the ship's pain through his palm. The Kellerans were connected to their ships in ways other races could not understand. Each vessel was grown, not built, from living crystal that bonded with its crew. When a ship died, part of its crew died with it. Through the clear walls of his bridge, Zexai watched the enemy fleet circle his world like hungry sharks. Zavorthan Dominion had come from the dark spaces between stars. Their ships looked like giant insects made of black metal and pulsing flesh. Biomechanical monsters that fed on entire worlds. "Admiral," his communications officer whispered, her voice shaking. "The northern defense grid is gone. They broke through." Zexai nodded slowly. He had known this moment would come. For 6 months, the Vorthons had been eating their way across the outer rim of the galaxy. 12 star systems had fallen silent. Billions of people had simply vanished, consumed by the hungry fleet that grew stronger with each world it devoured. His tactical display showed the truth in cold numbers. 230 Vorthon bioships surrounded Kalara Prime. Each one was the size of a small moon. Against them he had 3 damaged cruisers and maybe 200 fighters that were already running out of fuel. "So should we prepare?" "The evacuation ships?" asked his weapons officer. "There are no evacuation ships left," Zexai replied quietly. "They were destroyed in the first wave." The bridge fell silent except for the soft humming of dying crystal technology. Everyone knew what that meant. 8 billion Kellerons lived on the world below them. Families, children, elders who had never seen war. All of them were trapped. New alarm sounded. On the main screen, 3 massive Vorthon dreadnoughts broke away from the main fleet and headed straight for the last Kelleron ships. Each one was 10 times larger than Zexai's cruiser. Their hulls pulsed with a sick green light, and tentacle-like weapons reached out from their sides like the arms of some deep space nightmare. "Our ships." "Evasive maneuvers," Zexai ordered. "Fire everything we have." The 3 Kelleran cruisers turned and fired their crystal beam weapons. Bright blue energy lanced across space and struck the lead Vorthon ship. For a moment, there was hope. The alien vessel shuddered, and some of its biomechanical flesh burned away. But then the wound began to heal. The Vorthon ship's living hull flowed like water, closing the damage. Within seconds it was whole again. The return fire was devastating. Green plasma bolts, each one the size of a building, slammed into the Kelleron ships. The crystal hulls that had protected them for so long cracked and shattered. The rightmost cruiser broke in half, its crew dying as their ship's crystal heart went dark. "We've lost the bright wing," reported the communications officer, tears flowing down her face. "No survivors." Zexai closed his eyes for a moment. Morthan had been his friend for 50 years. They had served together as young officers, had celebrated each other's families, had dreamed of exploring the galaxy in peace. Now Morthon was gone, along with his crew of 300. The 2 remaining Kelleran ships limped away from the advancing Vorthons, but they could not run forever. Their energy was almost gone, their weapons nearly empty. Below them, the people of Kalara Prime watched the sky and waited for the end, in the deep black of space. Far from the dying battle, a small human ship drifted quietly on the edge of the system. The USS Ranger was a scout vessel, built for watching and listening, not fighting. Captain Jake Murphy sat in his command chair and stared at the tactical display with growing horror. "Sir, are you seeing this?" asked his sensor operator, Lieutenant Bob Davis. "Those crystal ships, they're getting slaughtered." Jake had been watching the battle for 3 hours. The Ranger had arrived to check on some strange energy readings in this sector. It found a massacre instead. The human ship was small and fast, designed to avoid trouble, not look for it. But Jake could not just watch an entire species die. "Can we get close enough to help?" he asked his weapons officer. "Sir, we've got 2 pulse cannons and some missiles." Those Vorthon ships are huge. We'd be like a fly trying to fight an elephant. Jake knew the officer was right. The Ranger was no warship, but he had seen the transmissions from the dying Kelleran ships. He had heard the voices of their people, singing what sounded like funeral songs for their world. He had watched children's faces on the emergency broadcasts, looking up at the sky and asking why no one was coming to help them. "Get me a secure channel to Admiral Zexai," Jake ordered. The communication took several minutes to establish. When the Kelleran Admiral's face appeared on the screen, Jake could see the exhaustion and despair in his large, dark eyes. The alien looked almost human, except for his blue skin and the 6 fingers on each hand. "Human vessel," Zexai said in careful English. "You should leave this place. There is nothing you can do here. The Vorthons will consume your ship as easily. As ours, Admiral, my name is Captain Jake Murphy. I want to help, but I need you to send me everything you know about these Vorthons. Their weapons, their tactics, everything." Zexai's expression changed from despair to confusion. "Captain Murphy, you have one small ship? We had a fleet of 50 vessels, and they destroyed us in ours. What can you possibly do?" Jake was quiet for a moment. He thought about his orders, which were to observe and report, never to engage. He thought about Earth Command, which would court-martial him for what he was about to do. Then he thought about the children's faces on the Kelleran broadcasts. "I can call for help," Jake said. "Finally, the USS Defiance is 3 systems away. It's our newest warship, with technology your people have never seen. If I can get them here, the Vorthans have over 200 ships," Zexai said. "One human vessel cannot." "Admiral, you don't know humans very well," Jake interrupted. "We don't like bullies. We really don't like watching children get hurt." As if to prove his point, another Vorthon plasma burst struck the second Kelleran cruiser. The ship's crystal hull cracked like an egg, and atmosphere began streaming out into space. The crew had maybe minutes before their ship died completely. "Send me that data, Admiral," Jake said urgently. "I'm going to try something stupid." Zexai looked at the human captain for a long moment. In his eyes, Jake could see a tiny spark of hope, trying to stay alive in the darkness. The Kelleran Admiral nodded and began transmitting everything his people had learned about their enemy. As the data flowed into the Ranger's computers, Jake turned to his communications officer. "Send a priority message to the USS Defiance. Tell Captain Brooks we need immediate assistance. Send them everything we're getting from the Kellerons." "Sir, the Defiance is under communication silence. Captain Brooks has direct orders not to respond to anything while they're testing their new drive system." Jake smiled grimly. "Then we'd better hope she's the kind of person who breaks bad orders for good reasons." On his screen, the last 2 Kelleran ships were trying to shield their homeworld from the approaching Vorthon fleet. It was hopeless, but they kept fighting anyway. Jake understood that kind of courage. He hoped Captain Lisa Brooks would understand it too. Captain Lisa Brooks stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance and watched the stars blur past the main window. The ship was moving faster than any human vessel had ever moved before. The new quantum drive system pushed them through space at speeds that made old warp engines look like bicycles. The Defiance was beautiful and deadly. Its hull was painted black with silver lines that pulsed with energy. The ship was 3 times larger than any other human warship, with weapons that could crack a moon in half. But it was also completely untested. This was supposed to be a simple test flight to make sure everything worked before they returned to Earth. "Captain, we're maintaining quantum speed perfectly," reported her navigation officer, Lieutenant Danny Chen. "The drive is running smooth as silk." Lisa nodded but kept her eyes on the stars. Something felt wrong. The Defiance was too perfect, too powerful. Ships this advanced usually had problems, bugs that needed to be worked out. But everything was running exactly as designed. It made her nervous. "Captain," called Lieutenant Commander Steve Parker from the tactical station. "I'm receiving a priority transmission from the USS Ranger. It's Captain Murphy." Lisa frowned. Jake Murphy was supposed to be on a routine patrol mission in the outer sectors. Put him through. Jake's face appeared on the main screen, but the transmission was broken and filled with static. Lisa could see explosions in the background behind him, and his ship was clearly shaking from weapons fire. "Right. Lisa, Thank God you're receiving this, Jake said quickly. I'm at Kalara Prime. The Vorthons are here. They're destroying everything. An entire species is about to be wiped out. Jake, slow down, Lisa said. Who are the Vorthons? What's happening? The transmission cleared for a moment, and Lisa could see Jake's face clearly. He looked exhausted and scared. There's some kind of biomechanical race. They've been eating their way across the galaxy, consuming entire worlds. They've got over 200 ships here and there, about to land on Kellara, primed to harvest 8 billion people. Lisa felt her stomach drop. Jake, you need to get out of there. One scout ship can't. I'm not leaving, Jake interrupted. Lisa, I'm sending you all the tactical data I've gathered. These things can be hurt, but it takes massive firepower. The Kellarans have been fighting them for hours, and they're almost gone. The data package arrived, and Steve Parker began analyzing it immediately. His face went pale as he read the numbers. Captain, these Vorthon ships are huge. Each one is the size of a battle station. Their weapons dissolve matter at the molecular level. How many did you say there were? Lisa asked. 230? Jake replied through the static. I know what you're thinking. I know your orders. But Lisa, there are children down there. Families. An entire civilization that's done nothing wrong, except exist in the path of these monsters. Lisa looked around her bridge. Her crew of 800 had signed up for a test mission, not a suicide run against impossible odds. She thought about her orders from Earth Command. Complete the quantum drive tests. Return to base. No deviations. No unauthorized engagements. Steve, what's our weapons status? She asked quietly. Full load, Captain. Quantum torpedoes, plasma cannons, particle beams, all enhanced by the quantum field generators. In theory, we're the most powerful ship ever built. In theory, Lisa. Repeated. What about in practice? Her chief engineer, Commander Paul Harrison, spoke up from his station. Captain, we don't know. Quantum enhancement systems have never been tested in combat. They could work perfectly, or they could tear the ship apart. Lisa stared at the tactical display that showed the Vorthon fleet. One a monster. Against them, she had one untested vessel with an untested crew. The smart thing to do was exactly what her orders said. Turn around and go home. Captain, said Lieutenant Amy Chen from Communications. I'm picking up transmissions from the Kelleran surface. They're children singing. Amy put the transmission on speakers. The sound that filled the bridge was hauntingly beautiful. Young voices singing in harmony, their alien language flowing like water. But underneath the beauty was sadness, a goodbye song for a world that was about to die. What are they singing? Lisa asked. Amy worked at her console for a moment, running the alien words through the translation system. It's called the Last Light song. They sing it when there's no hope left, when everything is ending. The bridge fell silent except for the children's voices. Lisa closed her eyes and listened. She thought about her own childhood on Earth, about summer nights when her mother would sing her to sleep. Prime, who would never grow up, never have families of their own, never see another sunrise. Captain Steve said quietly, I'm reading 300 officers and crew aboard this ship. We all knew the risks when we signed up for Starfleet. Those kids down there didn't choose to be born into a war zone. Lisa opened her eyes and looked at her crew. She saw the same determination in their faces that she felt in her heart. These were good people, brave people, the kind of humans who joined Starfleet because they wanted to make a difference in the universe. Paul, if we push the quantum drive to maximum, how long before it breaks down? She asked. Unknown, Captain. Could be hours, could be minutes. The quantum field is incredibly unstable at full power. But if it holds together, we'll be faster and more powerful than anything in space. And if it doesn't hold together, Paul was quiet for a moment. We'll probably just disappear. The quantum field would collapse and take us with it. Lisa nodded. She looked at the tactical display again, then at Jake's face on the screen. Her old friend was still there, still broadcasting from his tiny ship as he watched a civilization die. Jake, how long do the Kellerans have? Maybe an hour before the Vorthons break through their last defenses. Lisa, I know what I'm asking. I know the odds. but someone has to try. Lisa thought about the oath she had taken when she became a Starfleet captain. To explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one had gone before. But also to protect the innocent, to stand between civilization and chaos. To be the light in the darkness. She thought about the children singing their goodbye song. She thought about her crew, who had trusted her to lead them. She thought about the 200 Vorthan ships that were about to commit genocide. Danny set course for Calera Prime, she said finally. Maximum quantum drive. Captain, that's directly against our orders, her first officer warned. I know, Lisa replied. But some orders are meant to be broken. Steve, prepare all weapon systems. Paul, I need everything the quantum drive can give us. I send a message to Earth Command. Tell them the USS Defiance is engaging a hostile alien force in defense of civilian populations. What should I say about our test mission? Amy asked. Lisa smiled grimly. Tell them we're about to conduct the ultimate test. The bridge hummed. With activity as the crew prepared for battle, the Defiance turned toward the Calera system and accelerated to speeds that shouldn't have been possible. The quantum drive pushed them through space like a bullet fired from the hand of God. Ta to Calera Prime. 15 minutes, Danny reported. Jake, we're coming, Lisa said into the communicator. Tell Admiral Zexai to hold on just a little. Longer? The cavalry is on the way. Through the static, she could hear Jake laugh. Lisa, you're either the bravest person I know or the craziest. Maybe both, she replied. Defiance out. The stars continued to blur past the bridge windows as the most powerful ship in human history raced toward a battle that would either save a civilization or destroy them all. The USS Defiance burst out of quantum space like a comet from hell. Something had gone terribly wrong with the experimental drive system. Instead of a clean exit, the ship tore through the fabric of space itself, leaving a wound in reality that screamed with energy. Captain Lisa Brooks felt her ship shake violently as they dropped into normal space. Sparks flew from control panels across the bridge, and the lights flickered. Through the main window, space itself seemed to be on fire around them. Blue and white quantum energy wrapped around the Defiance's hull like ghostly flames. Report. Lisa shouted over the noise of alarms and crackling electricity. Quantum drive is offline. Commander Paul Harrison called from engineering. The field generators are overloaded, running on backup power only. Captain, you need to see this, said Lieutenant Commander Steve Parker from his tactical station. His voice was filled with wonder and fear. The quantum field. It's not dissipating. Staying with us. Lisa looked at the main screen and saw what he meant. The Defiance was wrapped in a cocoon of pure energy that pulsed and flowed around the ship like liquid lightning. The quantum fire made everything look strange and frightening. Their ship appeared to be a ghost vessel sailing through space on wings of pure energy. Sir, I'm detecting massive electromagnetic disturbance from our position, reported Lieutenant Danny Chen. The quantum field is broadcasting on frequencies I've never seen before. It sounds like ... double quotes. Like what, Danny? Like screaming, Captain. Like the ship is screaming. The bridge fell silent for a moment as everyone listened to the eerie sound coming through the communication system. It was a high-pitched wail that seemed to come from the space around them, as if reality itself was crying out in pain. Steve, where are the Vorthons? Lisa asked, pushing aside her fear to focus on the mission. 200 ships surrounding Calera Prime, Captain. But something's wrong. They've stopped their attack. They're all turning to look at us. On the tactical display, Lisa could see the massive Vorthon fleet. The biomechanical ships had been advancing on the planet, ready to begin their harvest of the Kelleran people. But now they hung motionless in space, their attention focused on the single human vessel that had just emerged from what looked like a tear in the universe itself, deep in the heart of the Vorthan mothership. The collective consciousness that controlled the entire fleet experienced something it had never felt before: fear. For millions of years, the Vorthans had consumed worlds and civilizations. They had seen every type of weapon, every form of technology. But this was something new. The human ship registered on their sensors as impossibly small compared to their mighty dreadnoughts. But the energy readings were beyond comprehension. The vessel appeared to be phasing in and out of normal space, wrapped in forces that their science could not explain. Worse, the screaming sound it produced triggered primitive instincts deep in their biomechanical minds. It sounded like the death cry of gods. Admiral Zexai watched from his dying command ship as the impossible happened. A single vessel had appeared in the middle of the largest fleet he had ever seen, and the Vorthons had stopped their attack. His sensors told him the new ship was human, but his eyes told him it was something from a nightmare. Communication from the human vessel, his officer, reported with shaking hands. Jake Murphy's face appeared on Zex's screen, grinning like a madman. "Admiral, I told you help was coming. That's the USS Defiance, and Captain Brooks is about to show these bugs what humans do to bullies." "Captain Murphy, that ship, what happened to it?" "I think their quantum drive had a problem," Jake replied. "But you know what? I don't think it was a bad problem." On the Defiance, Lisa studied the tactical situation with growing determination. The Vorthon ships were enormous, each one bristling with bioweapons that could dissolve matter, but they seemed confused, almost frightened by her ship's appearance. She decided to use that fear. "Amy, open a channel to the Vorthon fleet," she ordered. "Captain, we don't know their language," Amy replied. "We don't need words. Steve, target their lead ship. Fire one quantum torpedo, ma'am. Just one. Trust me." The Defiance, still wrapped in its cocoon of quantum fire, turned toward the largest Vorthon vessel. The torpedo launch was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Instead of a normal missile, a bolt of pure quantum energy erupted from the human ship and streaked across space like a lance of blue fire. The torpedo struck the Vorthon dreadnought in the center of its biomechanical hull. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the quantum energy began to spread across the alien ship's surface like acid eating through metal. But this wasn't destruction in any normal sense. The quantum field was unmaking the ship, breaking down its molecular structure and scattering it into the void. The massive Vorthon vessel, which had been over 2 kilometers long, simply ceased to exist. It didn't explode or burn, it just faded. Away like smoke in the wind, taking its crew of 10,000 with it. The effect on the Vorthon fleet was immediate and dramatic. Ships that had been moving in perfect formation suddenly scattered like frightened animals. The collective consciousness that controlled them was experiencing something it had never known, the possibility of its own death. "Captain, they're breaking formation," Steve reported with amazement. "Half the fleet is pulling back from the planet." "Good," Lisa replied. "Now let's really get their attention." Danny set course for the center of their formation. "Full speed, Captain." "The quantum field is making us faster than our engines should allow," Danny said with wonder. "We're moving at 3 times normal speed." The Defiance screamed across the Kellara system like a comet of pure energy. Quantum fire trailing behind it lit up space for millions of kilometers. To the Vorthines, it looked like death itself was coming for them, riding on wings of blue flame. "Steve, continuous fire on all targets. Don't let them regroup." The human ship tore through the Vorthon formation like a shark through a school of fish. Quantum torpedoes erupted from its weapons ports in rapid succession, each one unmake 'em another. Biomechanical ship. The aliens tried to return fire, but their weapons seemed to have no effect on the quantum field surrounding the Defiance. Green plasma bolts simply passed through the energy cocoon like it wasn't there. Admiral Zexai watched in amazement as a single human vessel did what his entire fleet could not. It was destroying the Vorthons. The ships that had seemed invincible just minutes ago were fleeing in terror from this one small vessel that howled like a banshee as it fought. "Captain Murphy," he said into his communicator, "what kind of people are you humans?" Jake laughed as he watched another Vorthon ship disappear. "In quantum fire. We're the kind of people who show up when someone calls for help, Admiral. We're the kind who don't like seeing children get hurt. We're definitely the kind who don't back down from a fight, no matter what the odds." On the surface of Kellara, Prime, 8 billion people looked up at the sky and saw hope. The stars were dancing with blue fire as their saviors fought to protect them. The children who had been singing goodbye songs began to sing songs of joy instead, but the battle was far from over. Vorthons had over 100 ships left, and they were starting to recover from their initial shock. The largest bioships were forming up for a coordinated attack on the human vessel that had dared to challenge their might. Captain Lisa Brooks stood on her bridge, surrounded by quantum fire and the sound of screaming space, and smiled.
Steve,
Identify their biggest ships. We're going to show them what happens when you mess with innocent people. The USS Defiance, wrapped in the fury of broken space-time itself, turned toward the heart of the enemy fleet and prepared to write a new chapter in the history of war. The battle that followed changed everything the galaxy thought it knew about war. The USS Defiance moved through space like a force of nature, wrapped in quantum fire that made it look like a ship from another dimension. Every movement left trails, a blue energy that lasted for minutes, turning the darkness around Kellara Prime into a web of light. Captain Lisa Brooks stood at the center of her bridge as chaos erupted around her. Weapons fire lit up the main screen as her ship engaged dozens of Vorthan vessels at once. But this wasn't like any battle ever fought. The quantum field surrounding the Defiance was changing the rules of physics itself. Steve, target the 3 dreadnoughts moving toward the planet, she ordered calmly. Lieutenant Commander Steve Parker worked at his station with deadly precision. The ship's targeting systems, enhanced by quantum processing, could track and engage multiple enemies simultaneously. Locked on, Captain. Firing quantum torpedoes spread. 3 bolts of pure energy erupted from the Defiance and moved faster than light itself, bending space around them as they flew. The first torpedo struck a Vorthon bioship that was over 3 kilometers long. The massive vessel began to come apart at the molecular level, its living hull screaming as it dissolved into nothingness. The second and third torpedoes hit their targets at the same moment. 2 more dreadnoughts simply ceased to exist, leaving only empty space where they had been. The Vorthon crews didn't even have time to send distress signals before they were unmade by weapons that operated beyond their understanding. Incoming fire from the port side, called Lieutenant Danny Chen from navigation. Lisa didn't even blink. Evasive maneuvers. Show them how fast we can move. The Defiance spun through space like a dancer, the quantum field around it making impossible turns and accelerations. Green plasma bolts from dozens of Vorthan ships passed harmlessly through the energy cocoon that protected the human vessel. The alien weapons that could dissolve normal matter had no effect on the quantum barrier. Commander. Paul Harrison's voice crackled over the ship's communication system from the engine room. Captain, the quantum drive is way past redline. Field generators are running at 300% of maximum. I don't know how much longer we can maintain this. How long do you think we have? Lisa asked as another Vorthan ship disappeared under her weapons fire. Could be minutes, could be hours. This is completely uncharted territory. But Captain, every second we stay in this quantum state, we're risking a complete field collapse. Lisa understood what that meant. If the quantum field failed while they were moving this fast, the Defiance would be torn apart by forces that could crack a planet. But she also understood what would happen to the 8 billion Kellarans if she stopped fighting now. Keep us together, Paul. That's an order. The Vorthan fleet was learning to fear the human ship, but they were also learning to fight it. The biomechanical vessels began moving in coordinated patterns, trying to surround the Defiance from all sides. Their hive mind was adapting, finding new ways to attack the vessel that seemed to come from another reality. Captain, they're changing tactics, Steve reported. 50 ships are forming a sphere around us. They're going to try to trap us in. Crossfire. Lisa smiled coldly. Let them try. Danny, take us straight up through the center of their formation. Steve, continuous fire on all targets. Let's see how much punishment they can take. Ah! The Defiance shot upward like a rocket, quantum fire streaming behind it. As it moved through the center of the Vorthan sphere, every weapon on the ship fired. At once, quantum torpedoes and enhanced plasma beams erupted in all directions, creating a sphere of destruction around the human vessel. 7 Vorthon ships were caught in the barrage and simply vanished. The rest of the formation scattered as their carefully planned trap became a slaughter. The aliens had never faced an enemy that could destroy multiple targets while moving at impossible speeds. On the surface of Kellara Prime, Admiral Zexai watched the battle through his ship's sensors with growing amazement. The human vessel was outnumbered 100-1, but it was winning. Every few seconds, another Vorthan ship would disappear in a flash of blue light. "Sir, I'm receiving transmissions from the Vorthan fleet," his communications officer reported. They're calling for retreat." Zexai couldn't believe what he was hearing. The Vorthons had never retreated from anything. They were a force of nature, consuming everything in their path. But now they were afraid of a single human ship. "What are they saying?" he asked. "The translation is rough, but it sounds like they're calling the human ship the death that screams. They think it's some kind of supernatural force." Through his dying ship's sensors, Zexai watched as more Vorthan vessels tried to escape the quantum-wrapped fury of the human warship. But the Defiance was faster than anything they had. It chased down fleeing bioships and destroyed them one by one, each kill marked by another flash of blue fire. Captain Jake Murphy, still watching from his small scout ship, opened a channel to the Defiance. "Lisa, you're scaring them to death." "I've never seen anything like this. We're just getting started," Lisa replied as her ship destroyed another Vorthon cruiser. "Steve, how many ships do they have left?" "About 60, Captain, but the really big ones are still intact. There are 5 motherships hanging back near the edge of the system." Lisa looked at the tactical display and saw what he meant. The massive Vorthan motherships were each the size of small moons, covered in weapons and armor that had never been penetrated. They were the core of the alien fleet, the brain centers that controlled all the smaller ships. "Those are our real targets," said Danny. "Set course for the nearest mothership. Paul, I need everything the quantum drive can give us." "Captain, if we push any harder, the field generators will explode," Paul warned. "Then we'd better make this count. All hands, prepare for maximum acceleration." The Defiance turned toward the closest Vorthan mothership and began to accelerate. The quantum field around it grew brighter and more unstable with each passing second. The ship's hull began to show stress fractures as forces beyond imagination pulled at its structure, but the crew held together. Through pure determination and trust in their captain, they had come here to save innocent lives, and they weren't going to stop until the job was done. Every person on the ship knew they might die in the next few minutes, but none of them asked to turn back. The Vorthan mothership saw the human vessel approaching and turned all its weapons toward the threat. Hundreds of plasma cannons and biomissiles erupted from its hull, creating a wall of fire between it and the Defiance. Lisa watched the incoming fire and made a decision that would become legend throughout the galaxy. All power to forward shields. We're going straight through. The Defiance plowed into the Vorthan weapons fire like a ship sailing through a storm. The quantum field around it absorbed impact after impact, growing brighter with each hit. Human ship looked like a comet made of pure energy as it fought its way through the barrage. "Hull integrity at 70%, Danny reported as the ship shook violently. 60%, he called a few seconds later. 50%. Lisa gripped her command chair as her ship came apart around her. Die. But they were almost through the weapons fire, almost close enough to strike at the heart of the enemy fleet. Could see the Vorthan mothership growing larger on the main screen, its biomechanical hull pulsing with alien life. "Steve, prepare quantum torpedoes, full spread, target their power core. Captain, at this range, our own weapons will destroy." "Us too." Lisa smiled one last time. "We'd better make sure we take them with us." The USS Defiance became a missile of pure energy as it flew toward the heart of the Vorthan mothership. Captain Lisa Brooks stood on her shaking bridge and watched the massive biomechanical vessel grow larger on the main screen. This was it. This was how her story would end, but she would take the alien fleet's command ship with her. "All hands, brace for impact," she announced over the ship's communication system. "It's been an honor serving with you." The quantum field around the Defiance grew brighter and more unstable with each passing second. The ship's hull groaned under forces that should have torn it apart hours ago. Somehow it held together through the sheer determination of its crew and the impossible physics of their damaged drive system. Lieutenant Commander Steve Parker fired every quantum torpedo the ship had left. The blue bolts of energy streaked ahead of the Defiance and struck the Vorthan mothership's hull. Instead of exploding normally, They began to eat through the biomechanical armor like acid through paper. The alien vessel's living flesh screamed in frequencies that made the quantum field pulse even brighter. Commander Paul Harrison's voice came over the communication system from the engine room. "Captain, the quantum drive is past critical. The field generators are about to explode. But I'm reading something impossible down here. The quantum field is becoming self-sustaining. It's feeding on itself." Lisa didn't understand what that meant, but she could see the result on her instruments. The Defiance was no longer just wrapped in quantum energy. It was becoming quantum energy. It was transforming into something that existed between normal space and the void between dimensions. The collision with the Vorthan mothership should have destroyed both ships. Instead, something miraculous happened. The Defiance passed through the alien vessel like a ghost, but everywhere it touched, the quantum field spread. The mothership began to dissolve from the inside out as its molecular structure was unraveled by forces it could not resist. "Steve, what just happened?" Lisa asked as alarm screamed around her. "I don't know, Captain. We should be dead, but we're still here. The mothership is. It's just gone. Completely gone." Lisa looked at the main screen and saw empty space where the massive alien vessel had been, but more than that, she could see the quantum field spreading outward like ripples in a pond. Every Vorthan ship it touched began to come apart, their biomechanical hulls dissolving into nothing. The remaining 4 motherships tried to flee, but the quantum cascade was faster than they were. One by one, the massive vessels that had terrorized the galaxy for millions of years simply ceased to exist. The smaller bioships scattered in all directions, but many of them were caught in the expanding field of destruction. In the space of 5 minutes, the entire Vorthon fleet was either destroyed or fleeing into deep space. The force that had consumed 12 star systems and billions of lives had been broken by a single human warship that refused to give up. But the most impossible thing was still to come. As the quantum cascade faded, the USS Defiance began to reappear. The ship materialized out of pure energy, its hull scarred and blackened, but somehow intact. The crew that should have died in the collision was still alive, still at their posts, still ready to fight. Captain Jake Murphy arrived in the USS Ranger just as the last of the quantum fire faded from around the Defiance. He stared at his instruments. In disbelief, according to his sensors, Lisa's ship had just returned from a dimension that shouldn't exist. "Lisa, are you there?" he called over the communication system. "We're here, Jake," came the reply. Lisa's voice sounded tired but triumphant. I'm not entirely sure how. Captain Brooks, Admiral Zexai's voice, joined the conversation. "What you have done. There are no words in any language. You saved my people. You saved my world. How can we ever repay this debt?" Lisa looked around her bridge at her crew. They were all staring at their instruments in wonder, trying to understand what had happened to them. Lieutenant Amy Chen was crying tears of joy. Lieutenant Danny Chen was laughing with relief. Even Steve Parker, always calm and professional, was grinning like a child. "You don't owe us anything, Admiral," Lisa replied. "We did what anyone should do when innocent people are in danger. We helped, but Jake knew better. What had happened here would change everything. Lisa, do you understand what you've done? You didn't just save the Kellerans. You've shown the galaxy that humanity will cross impossible odds to protect strangers. Word of this is going to spread." He was right. Within hours, the story began to travel through space at the speed of light. Traders and explorers carried the tale from system to system. The story of the human warship that came shrieking from the void to answer a cry for help. The ship that died and came back to life. The crew that faced impossible odds and won. The Vorthan survivors who escaped the battle carried their own version of the story. They spoke in terrified whispers of the death that screams, the human vessel that could travel between dimensions and unmake entire fleets. They warned their people never to attack human worlds, never to threaten human allies, because the humans would always come. On Kellera Prime, 8 billion people looked up at the stars and knew they were safe. The children who had been singing goodbye songs now sang songs of heroes who came from across the galaxy to protect them. Parents told their young ones about the humans who kept their promises, even to strangers. Captain Lisa Brooks received a transmission from Earth Command 6 hours after the battle ended. She expected to be court-martialed for disobeying orders and starting an interstellar war. Instead, she found herself looking at Admiral Sarah Martinez, the head of Starfleet, who was trying very hard not to smile. "Captain Brooks," Admiral Martinez said, "your unauthorized mission has created quite a situation. We now have 17 different alien species requesting defense agreements with Earth. The Galactic Council wants to meet with our representatives. And the Vorthons have sent a message saying they will never again attack any world under human protection." "Are we in trouble, Admiral?" Lisa asked. "Captain, you've just established humanity as a major power in this galaxy. Yes. You've shown everyone that we stand by our principles, even when it costs us. You've made it clear that Earth will not tolerate genocide or the slaughter of innocents." Admiral Martinez paused. "No, Captain, you're not in trouble. You're getting a promotion and a new mission." "What kind of mission?" "The kind where you take that remarkable ship of yours and make sure this sort of thing never happens again. We're forming a new fleet, Captain. Ships that will patrol the galaxy and respond to calls for help from anyone who needs it." "And you're going to lead it?" Lisa looked around her bridge one more time. Her crew had followed her into what should have been certain death, and they had emerged as legends. They had proven that humans would always answer the call when someone needed help. No matter how far they had to travel or how great the odds against them. "Admiral, we accept the mission," she said. "When do we start?" 3 months later, the USS Defiance led a fleet of 12 human warships on their first patrol mission. They carried a simple message to every corner of the galaxy. If you are in trouble, if you are threatened, if you have nowhere else to turn, call for help. Humanity will answer. The age of human expansion had begun, and it started not with conquest or greed, but with a promise kept to strangers in their darkest hour. The legend of the ship that came shrieking from the void spread to every world, every species, every corner of space, and in the darkness between the stars, other threats to innocent life learned to fear the sound of human engines and the sight of human ships, because they knew that wherever there was injustice, wherever there was cruelty, wherever children sang goodbye songs to dying worlds, humanity would be there. The promise was simple. No one fights alone.